Do you ever wonder why your favorite podcasts sound effortless? Obviously, the spoiler is they're not. Recording the podcast, getting in front of the camera, getting in front of the microphone, that's just half of the process, half of the magic, half of how the chili is cooked or the bread is baked, whatever you want to say. Because then the other part, the other half, the other magic, or the real magic, you could say, is in the editing. Because as a human, as somebody like myself who may or may not be comfortable in front of the camera, I think I am because I do this a lot and I don't really care what people think. But the real magic, I believe, is the editing, because two other things that I say all the time as I'm recording is I'll say a phrase or like a point. You put the microphone right in front of your face, right? For some reason, I say, right? Like as a question, like, you get that, right? So I'll take those out as I'm editing. And the other thing that I will say and take out that I've actually gotten a little bit better about, but I'll say, and so. Like if I don't know what I'm saying or I can't think about what I'm going to say, so, da 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 da. And so just did it. So the editing process is me taking out certain filler words that don't make sense. I do keep the word like in my recordings sometimes, and I don't take out all of the ums because I still want it to sound authentic, because that's who I am. I say and so, I say right, like, so I'll leave those in throughout, but I try to get rid of the ones that don't matter or the ones that are definitely like a pause because I'm thinking about something or something I want to say, and so I'll be like, those I will take out. But I try to leave some just to sound authentic and to sound real. And so, gosh, man, this is a perfect example. It's great. It's great. Trying to get better at it. I am trying to get better at it. But this is the fourth episode in this 10-part series I'm creating. The fourth one is all about editing and how important it is, because you don't just get up there, record, and post what you've recorded. I don't really know of anybody who can do that, but my whole point is editing is a major, major piece of your podcast, and editing also is not something that you're going to pick up and be great at right away unless you have studied editing or you've been doing it for a very long time and that kind of thing. There is a learning curve to editing. There is no one-take wonder. That is a myth. I don't know of a podcast that does a one-take wonder, unless, of course, it's recorded live. But in the moment, you can watch it live, and there might be mistakes. There might be ums and pauses that are awkward that you can't fix live, obviously. So it's cool that people are doing that, even with people who are pros, like I said, who do live television. The myth, I think, is that good podcasters don't need editing. You do. All the shows edit. You can see where there's cuts, that kind of thing. With even Joe Rogan, NPR, when they do their news podcasts and their storytelling podcasts, there's definitely editing being done, because editing tightens it up so much. For instance, I could record this podcast. This podcast could be 18 minutes long of recording, but then by the time I edit it down and get rid of filler words and all the other stuff, this podcast episode could be cut down from 20 minutes to 12 minutes because of stuff I want to take out. And also fluff, stuff that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about today. I can take all of that out too. And I'll get into that a little bit more, but every great podcaster edits. Please edit your podcasts, especially if you're long-winded. I know sometimes I can be long-winded and I want to take things out of my podcast so I don't sound so long-winded. And the other thing too about edits and editing, it doesn't hide your flaws. I mean, it takes out certain things you say or might think or do during your podcast, but I also think that if you're editing correctly, it's going to highlight your strengths and what you're good at and what you're trying to get across, what your message is. That's how you should look at editing is that it's not getting rid of your flaws. It's highlighting your strengths. So obviously there is a purpose to editing. It's to clean up things, like I said, cleaning up your ums and pauses, all of that. It's also to help things flow better. If you are long-winded or you're telling a story that might drag on, editing can tighten that up also. It can make that story go from 10 minutes to 5 minutes because you can edit down certain parts of it. And maybe you repeat yourself. Sometimes I repeat myself and I'll say the same thing and then I'll say the same thing again. And so you can take that out also. That's also part of the editing process and why editing is so important. Another reason to edit is to get your message across clearly. So again, which is kind of like the long-winded part, but you could have a point that you want to get across and you could narrow that down from 30 seconds to 10 seconds, whatever it might be. So I think those are 3 major reasons why you want to edit and get better at editing, is just to clean up the stuff, the junk that might just make things drag on, editing to help with the flow, and editing to help with the clarity of your message. And sure, when you edit, you're deleting a ton of stuff, hopefully, to tighten things up. But not only are you deleting stuff, you're also just making a better product. So I think also when we record a podcast or do something in front of a camera, the one other thing to think about is the emotional side of it. Because I hear all the time, I can't do a podcast. I hate the sound of my own voice. This is the voice you are given, and I hate to hear people say that. And it might be hard to hear it. I get that. But if you have a story to tell and you want to talk to people, you're going to have to eventually get over that. You're going to. It's just the same thing with camera. People saying like, oh, I can't get in front of a camera. I'm too nervous. I'm too shy. I hate the way this looks, that looks. You're out in public all the time. Hundreds of people see you every day. What's the difference, in my opinion? That's kind of how I look at it and get past it. I have some YouTube stuff posted. I was very uncomfortable in front of the camera. And I had so many takes on sports stories I would do. And I don't know why. I don't know what made me so nervous about getting in front of a camera. And same thing with your voice. You just have to get over it if this is really what you want to do. And obviously, the more you do this, the more you get in front of a camera, the more you get in front of a microphone, the more reps you take, the better it's going to get, the easier it's going to get. You're going to hear the growth that you're making as a communicator, as a human being in front of a camera, in front of a microphone. You're going to notice those things, and you're going to look back and you're going to look at your first podcast, and then you're going to look at your 30th podcast, and you're going to be able to tell just in that little amount of time how much growth has really happened, how much better you have gotten. Your pace will get better, your tone will get better, your confidence will get better, and you'll notice that over time the more and more you do it. It's like with anything. Practice, what's the saying? Practice doesn't make perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect? I don't know. I may have just made that up. But I get it. It's hard to hear our own voices. But if you can get past that, you're going to be successful, and you're going to become your own best coach when it comes to recording a podcast and hearing your voice. It's only going to get better and better. So just keep doing it. Don't give up. I've said this in the previous episodes, but the statistics say that most people give up after the 3rd episode. They'll be all excited, gung-ho. After that 3rd episode, people kind of stop recording their podcasts. And so like I've talked about with editing, it doesn't just help you fix your episode. Like when I go to edit this, it does help fix it, but that's not the only thing it does. It's going to help improve you as a communicator, because the editing, tightening it up, it's going to make you sound better and look better. So it's going to fix things, but it's also going to improve things. So there are a lot of editing tools out there. There's tons of them. Some are free, some are pricey. The free ones that are out there that I would recommend if you are looking for free, you can try out Riverside for free. Riverside is amazing. I use Riverside. I have a paid plan now just because I'm recording every day and you're only limited to a certain amount with the free plan. But Riverside uses AI to help take out those filler words. It'll take out ums, it can take out pauses. I haven't gotten down to the nitty gritty if I can take out certain words like okay. And so I don't know about that yet, but Riverside is a great option to start with. But if you want free, and you have a Mac, GarageBand, you can record and edit. Audacity is another one that's free, and that's great for basic cuts. So there are editing tools, and you can find tutorials on YouTube. That's what I did, and that's what I do with Riverside is they have their own channel, but I find people who have channels where they explain how to edit using certain software. And this isn't going to be something that's super easy right off the bat. Like I said, there is a learning curve to editing. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes reps. So if you are serious about this, just start with one of the free ones to make sure this is what you want to do, GarageBand or Audacity. Find some tutorials on YouTube of the basics, and you'll be good to go. And then over time, if you're into it and you're like, man, I need more tools, I need more things to do, then you can go buy a subscription to Riverside or another platform out there. But I highly recommend Riverside. I love the tools they have inside of it. And there's also music you can use. There's royalty-free music. You can even create like YouTube thumbnails in there. And also the great thing about Riverside is you record an episode, they then give you show notes. So I'll get a summary of this, of what this episode's about. I'll get takeaways, and I'll even get title suggestions using Riverside. But start simple. Don't go all crazy and spend all the money that you have on editing tools and equipment. Start simple, start free, or with as little money as possible to make sure that you're in this for the long run and this is what you want to do. And so learn the tools that will help each episode get better, whatever that might be. And if that is Audacity or GarageBand, that's free. Start there because it will make things better as you go. And then you can work your way up and maybe get something that costs a little bit more money. And so obviously I'm a one-man show because I actually don't mind the whole process of pre-production, production, post-production, meaning, creating my outlines, creating what I want to talk about, obviously doing this in front of the camera and the microphone, and then I enjoy the editing part. And I will say it gets easier over time, but there could come to a point where you need to outsource your editing because maybe your podcast is exploding and you're doing an hour podcast a day. That's going to get tedious over time. I get that. And that might be something that's a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. But just start thinking about, okay, I don't like the editing part. I like the other stuff, obviously. It's my podcast. It's my creative content. But I want somebody else to edit this. There's companies out there that will edit for you. Fiverr is an option. Upwork is an option to edit for you. And then there's podcast communities. I guarantee you on Facebook, there are multiple Facebook groups of podcast editors. And that's all they do. They don't like to be in front of the camera. They don't want to do a podcast, but they like to edit. And obviously that is going to cost more money. And so obviously in the long run, you'd have to weigh those options of cost and all of that. But obviously the podcast is your baby. It's your vision. That's not something you would hand off, obviously, to somebody else. But the editing, I feel like you could. So yes, you might be awesome in front of a camera and a microphone, energetic, great personality, very charismatic. Obviously that helps with your podcast and your brand. But where the magic happens is in the editing. The editing is very important. Please try to edit your podcasts. That is where your voice becomes your story. But don't rush the editing. You need to, if you're going to do it on your own, learn it, learn how to edit, take your time, be patient, spend 30 minutes to an hour a day going over YouTube tutorials or looking at different websites that have editing software. Take your time. So just remember these 3 main points from what I've said throughout this episode. Everyone edits. Trust me, every single podcast you listen to has been edited. It's normal. It's part of it. Editing is also storytelling. You're not just cutting stuff. It's helping you get your message across more clearly, and it's helping you be a better storyteller. And then the other thing with editing, and the more you do it, is your confidence is going to grow. You're going to see where you could have said this or done this, where you're like, oh man, I say way too much, or I say like way too much, or right? And so my own examples. I know where I need to work on things, and I know what I need to cut out and try to cut out on my own, not just in the editing process, but just as I communicate. And so that's the cool thing about editing your own stuff, is you realize and look at things like, I don't need to be saying that, or let's cut the fluff. So those 3 main points, I want you to leave with that. And I also, the next time you go to record something, think about, as you're recording, just think about how you're going to shape that in the edit if you're a nerd like me. Because when it comes to editing, I believe, like I said, everybody should be editing their podcast, but that's where a good podcast becomes a great podcast, is in the editing. So please reach out to me if you have any questions about editing software or where to even begin podcasting. Like I said, I've created this 10-part series about starting a podcast, launching a podcast. And I just hope this can help somebody. And you know what? I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm doing this for free. And I don't care if it only helps 2 people. If this whole series only helps 2 people, then I've done my job.